very effective. What they did was it'll make you, it'll give you the skeevies. All right, I've got us started. We are live across all of the platforms that God sees fit to put us on there.
Did you see that thing about Devin Nunes got shut out of Twitter? They shut him down because some people in his office were trying to use his account, and they were incapable of doing the which of these 9 squares has a traffic light in it. They
really?
They kept failing at doing it. It's the best. To
be fair, that's hard.
So apparently he finally got through to
customer service,
to Twitter somehow, whatever. Because I wouldn't want to see anybody lose their ability to be on Twitter that needs to communicate with their people.
Yeah, that would be a shame, wouldn't it? No. It would make life like a million times more peaceful if that person was kicked off.
All right.
All right, I'm all shared up now.
I know, but I'm not, so I'm going to have to do it.
Look at these people. Look at you beautiful people popping in here on a Wednesday afternoon. The weather here in North Carolina is shitty. I don't know if you guys know that or not. You might not know it. It was a nice day yesterday, but it's just like cold and rainy today.
Yeah, give them the weather, Britt.
I'll give them the weather. It's cold and rainy. I'm going to give you a program note real quick. And flip your calendars, too, while you're at it. Getting the weather on a podcast is that's one of the greatest things. I was going to sign up for the All Access Audio Summit, but they want $150.
So you were really close, right?
I was so close. I just wanted to see how much the damn thing cost. It's got the guy who's the head of iHeartRadio. He's going to stop firing people long enough to actually address the people at the conference.
You can learn a lot from a guy like that.
You can. I mean, it can change my life. You see the smart-ass comment at the bottom of the screen from somebody already chiming in?
No, I'm not, because I'm not.
Oh, it says weather and traffic together on the 7s is what it says. Somebody is thank you, the talking head.
First of all,
thank you for paying attention. I deserve
traffic.
it.
It's traffic and weather, not weather and traffic.
Oh, sir, your joke does not. You put it out of order, sir.
Right. If you're going to do comedy, it's got to be.
So if I say you're a head dick instead of a dick head, Brad, then that's the joke is.
If you're a whole ass instead of an asshole.
Asshole.
All right. Okay. You ready?
I am.
It is the Brad and Britt cast for this day, our third Brad and Britt cast of the week, live here in the 5 o'clock hour here in the East, back on Thursday, the next one, and we'll be at the regular time of 1:30 Eastern. If you follow us live and you're with us live, and the podcast folks, we still love you. You're special.
As always.
All right. All that video that you see over the years of Republicans walking through the Senate hallways, and they're asked a specific question. I'll just make up a question. Did you see Donald Trump's fucked up tweet about X, where he insulted X and destroyed someone's business or life? And they either keep walking, right? Yeah. Pretend they don't hear you,
right?
Or they stop for a moment and say, I don't respond to the president's tweets. They do anything.
Or I haven't seen it. I'm sorry, I haven't seen that. I don't know that one.
Right. Anything to give what they think is a plausibly rational denial of reality. And that's
Right.
what they've been doing for 4 years.
Right.
That's, if you're a Republican in office, that's what you've been doing. You've denied the reality of the horridness of Donald Trump and what he's done to the country. That's just one little aspect of it. But it's so ridiculously entertaining to see it over and over again with different senators, and they all do it. Mitch McConnell's really good at just continuing to walk and pretending he can't hear you. And maybe he can't. He's 78. His hearing might be going. But today and yesterday and surely for the rest of the week, at the trial of Donald Trump in the Senate, this has reached a new level, because it's in real time, where you have senators like Ted Cruz and Josh Hawley from Missouri and Lindsey Graham intentionally making it very, very clear that they are not listening to one word. They don't know. They didn't hear any of that. They didn't see any of that video, so that later on they can tell their supporters, their Trump-loving supporters, that not only did they vote to acquit Donald Trump, they weren't going to waste their time listening to that so-called evidence
Right.
that Donald Trump did something to stoke some people to do some things.
Mm-hmm.
It's so beyond disrespectful to the country.
Hawley has been, I guess, especially bad. Like with his feet up on the seat in front of him, he's looking over his tax documents or whatever the hell he's doing up there. It's just disgusting.
Well, you use the two important words, up there. He's not sitting down.
He's in the gallery.
He's upstairs where the spectators would be. Right?
You know, if I could get into the Josh Hawley frame of mind, though, it's just a bunch of minorities talking. I saw a black guy up there. There's a black woman. There's an Asian guy. I don't know. When minorities talk, I don't really listen. If I may be Josh Hawley for just 1 minute,
you'll take it to the next level. We appreciate it.
Sure. Anytime there's a black guy, it's a black woman, it's an Asian guy. Now there's a white guy up there. I see him, but I don't know. I have no idea. It's just minorities talking. I'll be over here checking out my mortgage deduction. Thanks.
Yeah. Now, in real time, not to get off the main subject, the news broke earlier in the day that the new district attorney for Fulton County, I guess it is going to lay the hammer down on Donald Trump, and they're investigating the famous phone call to the Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger, that Trump made. That dominated the news that was a 3-day big story when the audio of that was made public, where I think Trump famously says, "I needed to find 11,304, but he had it."
No, 11,780. That's the exact number that he needed.
Right.
Fannie T. Willis, the recently elected Democratic prosecutor in Fulton County, has sent a letter to numerous officials in state government, including Mr. Raffensperger, requesting they preserve documents related to an investigation to attempts to influence the administration of the state's 2020 presidential election, Brad. That's right. The exact thing that Fannie T. Willis is saying right now.
Yeah. Fannie, be tender with my president. As the BPs once
I see. It's spelled F-A-N-I. I'm supposing that's Fannie. I don't know if it's Fannie, but I'm assuming that's Fannie, but it's F-A-N-I is how the first name is spelled.
Yeah.
So there you go.
That's a very zany thing that you.
But
that was my first.
Yeah.
That's I wanted to make sure that we put that on the record.
We zeroed it in
how horrible. Just how horrible Republicans are.
They really are.
I hate to be generalizing here, but they really are. They
either own it or you don't.
They hate America in a way that we've never seen, because all they want to do is dominate America and not let anybody else participate. And whatever it takes to do that, they will. Yeah.
That's what's happening. Again, I know I went all minority on us, but a lot of this has to do with them not wanting minority participation in democracy.
You know what? We don't even have to do the whole minority thing. They just hate everybody.
Well, they don't. I don't know if they hate America so much as they hate Americans.
Right.
They really have an extreme dislike of Americans.
And now we're going to play the game. And were you a Sesame Street generation kid?
Yeah, I watched Sesame
You
Street.
watched
Sure.
it.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're fully familiar with, and of course you'd have to be a Sesame Street generation person to understand the one of these things is not like the other, right? No one else would get that. Is that true?
Yeah, nobody else would. Yeah, that would be fully ingrained. Sure.
So one of these things is not like the other, and it's a trick question because there is no answer. They are all the same. You ready? 3 things: Proud Boys, Oath Keepers, MS-13. Can you tell me the difference between those 3 as far as a threat to the?
All of those things are just like the others. Exactly. That's exactly what's happening. Yeah.
Right. I guess the difference would be that Proud Boys and Oath Keepers would get favorable treatment from the president of the United States, who left office a month ago.
Yeah.
And the MS-13, they are the one thing that threatens everybody 24/7 that we need to worry about. And I remember when they attacked the Washington Monument, the National Art Gallery, the Jefferson Memorial. Remember those MS-13?
Oh, it was terrible. It was so bad.
Our government was this close to coming down because of them, and nobody said a word. You didn't hear about it in the mainstream media.
Now, that Schoen guy who actually represents the former president, I think his argument on the Sean Hannity show last night was that the president, the difference between Maxine Waters, because I think today's project for the Trump team was to scramble and get a bunch of people like Maxine Waters, denying election results. I think that's what they were trying to do. And I think Mr. Schoen on the Hannity show last night was just saying, wait, are we just punishing the president for having a bunch of passionate followers?
Passionate followers.
I believe that was his argument.
The new video on Wednesday, which now includes a lot of security camera footage from inside the Capitol, in addition to new angles and new ways of seeing just what rabid, crazy, over the top, maniacal thugs these people were, and how they were willing to chant and scream and demand the scalp of Mike Pence and Nancy Pelosi. And you got to give them some credit for being fair and balanced there on political parties. They were going to take one of each. So they do get some wonderful points for unity. Unity is trying to destroy the government from the top down. But when you see that, and then what was the word that he used? It was
I said passionate. I said passionate. Yes. I'm paraphrasing.
That's not passionate. You know what passionate is?
What is passionate?
Passionate is all those people maybe that you've seen. I'm trying to do this in the political sense. I don't want to do anything, sexual here.
Sure.
But passionate are people who you would see at a political rally, who would be looking up, and whoever it was, whether it was Bernie Sanders or Mitt Romney, and tears would be running down their face because they'd made a great. Those are passionate people in the political realm. Passionate does not extend to people using battering rams, American flagpoles, and full military regalia to try to invade our capital, and they did it successfully. And they had their own riot shields, those plastic clear things that you see the police have. They had their own. They brought their own.
Keep in mind, that thing that I just told you came from the supposed good lawyer that Donald Trump has. It's the other guy, this Castor guy.
Which was the mob lawyer, the guy who did all the mob shit?
I think you're talking about Castor, who was the guy who spoke most yesterday and drew most of the ire. He had, again, the pinstripe suit, which was reminiscent of Dick Tracy again. Our younger viewers will love that one. He's the first guy that was so meandering and so terrible. And now you're getting all these reports that apparently Donald Trump was furious. He was cursing at the TV screen. He
Right.
was, and you know that it's true because they're not. In the past, you would get one report of this, and then there would be 50 people denying, oh no, that's not true. But now it's being widely reported, and nobody's stopping because this man has been emasculated, and he's been turned into some puny icon down in South Florida. Clearly, the man was very upset, and I don't know. This is another funny one that you're going to really enjoy. Byron York, longtime conservative columnist, pundit, journalist, if you will. I mean, some people would call him a journalist, some people would not. I believe he still works for the National Review. Am I right about this?
I think so, and he's still, one of the Fox.
Yeah, he's still on. I believe he was bemoaning on Twitter the fact that the president just doesn't have the resources that now the United States government, the House of Representatives, has. The president just doesn't have the resources, and that's why you're getting these awful.
So it's not fair.
I'm serious. He was trying to put this forward as some sort of explanation for why you had this shitty Bruce Castor speech that just meandered. It looked like, you remember the family circus thing where Jeffy or Billy would go all over the neighborhood to get to and they would show his path over here and there to go 5 steps to get a ball or something. And then he would come back home and not. That's essentially what Castor did yesterday. Now, Byron York is trying to evoke on our heartstrings, Brad. Donald Trump doesn't have the resource. Now, we don't know what happened to the millions of dollars that he raised personally for himself and his stupid children through the Stop the Steal thing. We have no idea where that money went. Yeah. Time out.
Forget any money that he raised.
Yeah.
Whether it's 200, whatever the number is.
Yes.
We're right back to one of his original lies when he was starting to run for president, which is, I don't need to raise any money. I'm really, really rich.
Correct.
And those were his, I'm really rich. And people would cheer. They love that.
They did,
because this was a guy who was going to be beholden to no one except his own needs and desires. Well, I guess he did live up to that one. But he made it very clear to these people who wanted to drain the swamp and get rid of the special interest that this was going to finally be a president who was beholden to no one because he had that much money. All right, fast forward all the way through the term and now into the post-presidency. And we talked about this several different times in different areas, but here we are again. If you're really, really rich, Donald Trump, money is no object. You're trying to save your alleged legacy. I'll pretend I'm being serious when I say that Donald Trump is trying to save his legacy and reputation. And you're also going to be needing lots of legal firepower when all these other lawsuits and all these charges come pouring down on you. And I think we got an early peek as to just how serious this is going to be for him out of the great state of Georgia. And it is a great state right now. We must say now,
as of this moment,
it is a great state.
In a way, you could say they saved the republic.
Yes, they did.
It's very strange. 160 years ago, they damn near came close to breaking this republic apart. But in 2021, these MFers just about saved our republic.
Right. So to even come close to saying that Donald Trump doesn't have, quote unquote, the resources to match the federal government dollar for dollar when you're talking. And let's just say a first class defense that would involve the best legal firepower out there might cost $50 million.
Okay.
Right. To a guy who's worth billions, who's 75 years old, that's nothing.
It's cigarette money. That's
where do I sign? Yeah. But it again brings up the fact that if you fell for the I'm so rich line, I'm the greatest businessman line, this again puts a lie to it because he doesn't have the money. He never had the money. He can't take out a mortgage against the Doral Country Club in Miami anymore. Nobody will do business with it. In
no,
other words,
Putin won't lend him Putin won't give him the money anymore,
right.
Brad.
Putin
He's
national.
useless to Vladimir Putin. He has no usefulness.
But again, it just is so irritating because we're not Nostradamus and Nostradamus Jr. here.
No.
We all knew this was true about him, and it was all written about him. There were books written about what a fraud he was. There were books written. There were lawsuits that he would file against Tim O'Brien. When Tim O'Brien wrote a book and said, Trump, you're not worth $5 billion. You might be worth $2 billion. And he sued over that. Remember that?
He did.
And it turned out, guess what? He dropped the suit.
Yes,
it never went anywhere.
That's
because
right.
It was probably true. But here he is at the moment in his life where you would think if you had that much money, there would be no amount that you could spend. Now, add that in with the fact that Donald Trump really could be worth $50 billion. He could be Mike Bloomberg or Bill Gates level wealth, and he still couldn't get the legal firepower he needs because nobody wants to work for Donald Trump as a lawyer and defend an indefensible thing. So between the fact that he really doesn't have the money, and if he did have the money, it wouldn't matter. Yes, Byron York is technically right. He does not have the ability compared to the federal government to go toe-to-toe in this case. So what's Donald Trump's strategy? The answer is just lie. Get a couple of second-rate guys to get up there. They're going to be cannon fodder for the next few days. And then all the people in the Senate who are going to vote to acquit him. We don't know what the number is. We know it's a minimum of 44 right now, right? Or at 44. If you take the 6 out from the vote yesterday and assume that they're all going to vote. And by the way, we don't even know that. Susan Collins, I'm sorry, she's on triple secret probation forever because even when she accidentally does what appears to be the right thing, the next week I thought it was constitutional for us to hear the case, but I just didn't see any evidence. I didn't see any evidence of any wrong. She may do that. But okay, let's say that the 6 stay where they are, and maybe it gets up to 8 or maybe even 10. That's Donald Trump's strategy. It's really to wait this out. But he is destroyed as a political figure in the future, and his children are destroyed.
Well, I hope so.
Ivanka Trump is not running in Florida for Senate. She's not doing it.
She's running for president. She's running for president in 2024.
She's not running for president. There will be no support for Ivanka Trump.
I hope you're right.
It's one thing to be scared shitless of Donald Trump's supporters through Donald Trump. Donald Trump's supporters do not transfer over to anyone else, including members of his family, because they have the same name. You can think what you want. It's not.
So Donald Trump's support is not sexually transmittable. So then perhaps either his daughter or his wife would not be able to run and get that support. Okay.
Right. And by the way, that is another reason by proxy that this trial had to happen, that it had to be shown that Donald Trump was this corrupt, was this hell-bent on destroying the American system as we know it, democracy as we know it. And sorry, Ivanka, sorry, Don Jr., but here's what we think, those of us who never fell for your family con, that if you were to be elected, who would be really pulling the strings? Mm-hmm. It would be Donald Trump, and that horse just ain't gonna fly.
No, that doggone hunt. And I think even this trial is not even the big. As you rightly point out, no lawyer worth a dime is going to work for this guy. So in the future, if you go forward with these charges in Georgia, who's going to represent him for that? If the Justice Department comes together and does put together some charges for him for inciting a riot, who would defend him in that? If these charges come through in New York State, as far as the tax fraud and all of that stuff, who's going to represent him.
I got two words for you: public defender. Would that be the greatest thing ever?
That would be pretty hilarious, actually.
He'd be down. The Nassau County public defender is going to speak for.
Honestly, that's the deal. But you're seeing. I'm looking now. CNN has a beautiful article, like the 21 most head-scratching arguments that were made. I guess this was on Tuesday.
It's only 21.
Yeah, well, they boiled it down to 21 of them. He goes, when I was growing up in suburban Philadelphia, my parents were big fans of Everett Dirksen from Illinois. And Senator Dirksen.
But hang on, before you read what they actually said. When you're watching this, you're in and out, and you're hearing. And I was in a car driving to the store when I heard him start to talk about Everett Dirksen,
who's been dead for what, 40 years
at least. All right, but Everett Dirksen had the all-time lowest gravelly voice in the history of politics. He just took it down to that's what he sounded like. And he was well known for that, and he had fun with it and the rest. And I thought, and this was pretty early in the guy's presentation. I thought, holy shit, if he's down to that.
In his opening monologue.
Right at the beginning of his opening monologue.
I was wrong. Everett Dirksen has been dead for over 50 years. He died before I was born.
Right. Okay.
So that's how old. Everett Dirksen was born in the 19th century. I just would like to point these things out. These are things that I like to point out. And Senator Dirksen recorded a series of lectures that my parents had on a record. And we still know what records are, right? On the thing you put the needle down on and you play it. That's a quote from the guy who is the main guy who spoke yesterday in defense of the former president, Donald John Trump Sr. That's one of the statements. And if you ever heard Everett Dirksen's voice, it is the most commanding, gravelly voice that just oozes belief and sincerity. Must have been a phenomenal United States senator.
Must have been. That's what's even better. He really doesn't even know. He doesn't know. And by the way, I think one of the buildings in the Capitol is named the Everett Dirksen.
It is, yeah. It is.
Right? I mean, he really was a famous guy.
He was influential, sure.
But you may as well get up there and talk about how your parents used to listen to Bing Crosby records. And they used to play at 78. Now, do you know what 78 means? Do you understand what that means when you put it? I mean, Jesus Christ.
This is the quality representation that Donald John Trump Sr. is getting.
Britt, I'm putting you on the spot here. Who else mentioned a record player? A couple months ago, somebody brought that up, and everybody was rolling their eyes. There was a moment,
Senate or something, or
in the campaign. During the campaign, somebody brought that up. I can't remember what the
Lord, if I remember, I can't.
Driving me nuts. We'll look this one up. We'll find it tomorrow.
It sounds like something that Joe Biden would have said, but I don't.
It was Biden. I think it was Biden, and everybody tagged him for it. I think, and it didn't mean anything, but of course. He didn't get very many votes and lost in a landslide, but that record player comment really hurt.
Apparently, during one of the debates, Biden said something like, "Make sure you have that record player on at night." Apparently, that was something that he said during one of the debates.
But see, that was a passing remark. It was not good, but it didn't mean anything. It was a complete description of a record playing machine, right? Is the machine on?
This is one of the statements that he made. Quote, it's funny. This is an aside, but it's funny. You ever notice how when you're talking or you hear others talking about you when you're home in your state, they will say, I talked to my senator or I talked to somebody on the staff of my senator. It's always my senator. Why is it that we say my senator? We say that because the people you represent are proud of their senators. This is
hang on. I heard that, and I thought, what was he doing? And this was clearly the most ham-handed, unsuccessful attempt to ingratiate himself to each senator, because he must have thought bubble. If I say this, every senator will think, "Wow, he understands that I like Missouri, that I like Arizona, that my
Arkansas, whatever."
Right. I mean, this is he the same one? Because I can't remember which one said. One of them said, I was in this building 40 years ago, and I had
That's
trouble
what he
getting
said.
around.
No, I've got the quote here. The other day when I was down here in Washington, I came down earlier this week to try to figure out how to find my way around. I worked in this building 40 years ago. I got lost then, and I still do.
Right, but the analogy between being lost in that building and being lost in the moment where you're trying to address and defend the president of the United States, who is no longer president of the United States, the former president, is that's not lost on anybody. You were lost 40 years ago, and you're still lost. GTFO, just get out. You're done. You're toast.
This guy, I mean, the corniest representation of a United States senator you could ever think of with Jeff Smith from Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, right? Mr. Smith, Jeff Smith looks like fucking like Axel Foley from Beverly Hills Cop compared to this guy, right? This guy looks so corny that he's showing up in your stool. This guy is unbelievable. And I can see why Trump, I would, there's almost not an amount of money. I would pay $1,000 to see a videotape of Donald Trump steaming and throwing shit while this guy is going through all of this stuff. Would you? I mean, we could pay off the national debt if they would just make that available.
See, here's what is so remarkable. And again, we always have to pull back and understand it really doesn't matter. It appears that Donald Trump has no defense. His lawyers can't make a case.
Yeah.
They lie about law professors who they're trying to quote. They got nothing. They're just faking it because 40 some senators so far. We don't have any indication that they're willing to listen to the evidence, which is overwhelming, and make the right decision for the country and the Constitution and for the future of the United States. They only care about who would be set against them in a primary next year by Donald Trump. They're still afraid. Okay, so let's keep that in mind. We'll put that in the background because that really is true. That's the sad hard fact. But when you look at the discipline, the messaging that the Democratic House managers had, they were one right after another. They didn't repeat. They didn't stumble.
No, there was a perfect assignment there, and there was a perfect delegation, and they each picked up and knew what each other was doing. It was really good.
Right. The video was right there. I mean, they hit their marks just about perfectly. Although on Wednesday it was a little slower. And I don't know why that was, because they were using the House security footage. That seemed to be a little bit slower. I don't understand why. It should have been on a master tape, but there is no tape. Okay.
See, there you go. It's like a record player.
It was still working very, very well. And these two guys, as you told me yesterday, have only known each other for, say, 48 hours, 2 days.
Yeah, 2 days. I think they met each other for the first time on Sunday.
Just met each other.
I think they got the job like less than a week ago.
Right. So they had nothing. And I was thinking about this last night. How much time, if any, did they spend with Trump himself? Don't you wonder that? Because clearly you need to sort of speak to the client, don't you think? Or is this such a cut and dried, we got this one in the bag. All you guys are hired to do is to tap dance for a few days and don't make it any worse than it is in terms of the actual evidence. Just don't blow it. And that Trump may have had a Zoom call with them, but that they didn't go down to Florida to see him because it was only 2 days. What do you think the chances are that they've never talked to Trump?
I don't believe the article that I read that was in the weekend in the Washington Post about Castor. I'm trying to remember. I don't think he's ever met him. I think he maybe talked to him. Yeah, I don't believe that, at least him. I don't know about that Schoen guy. I don't believe Schoen guy's ever met him either. I mean, and the Van de Vliet or whatever that other guy's name was. Between the three of them, if there's a total of 2 hours of face-to-face time total combined, I would be shocked. I'd be absolutely stunned. And if there's I don't believe there is. I don't think there is any face-to-face time.
Well, remember, we know that the the first group of lawyers who left
South Carolina
previous
bunch.
week, the 4 or 5 of them,
Yeah.
they all left because they refused to get up there and talk about what Trump wanted to use as the basis for his defense, which is he's still president, the election was stolen, and it was rigged. And they refused to do that. So they left. So now these guys come along, and my guess is they didn't speak because these guys aren't saying that. They're saying that, Trump's no longer the president. They already said that. He's the ex-president. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And because he's the ex-president, he's a private citizen, and this shouldn't be even heard by the Senate. Because
that's one of the bases. I mean, that's the basis of their argument.
Which is bullshit. It's a bullshit lie, but it's technically true.
Well, they have to say that he's the former president, so that lays the basis for they can't impeach him, which they've already ruled is. I mean, many legal scholars have said, many constitutional scholars have said that's nonsense, and yes, he can be.
But then you talk yourself into a corner there.
Correct. Yeah.
Not you, because the client thinks he's still president.
That's correct.
And the client unleashed for 2.5 months of planning, and then on the day of this assault on the Capitol, in order to reinstall himself as the president. So you got to make a choice there, boys. Which is it?
They've settled on we can eat from, it's a Chinese menu. We can have column A, we can have column B. We can do this when we need to, we can do that when we need to. But they're terrible and they're very ineffective. But again, just as I said yesterday, with all the poo-poo that's being spread around by Donald Trump, you're seeing the greatness of America. And I'd like to spotlight that Stacey Plaskett woman, who was a delegate from the Virgin Islands, did an amazing job, continues to do an amazing job. This is the greatness of America. She is the daughter of a New York cop. She lived in the projects, the John F. Kennedy projects in the Virgin Islands. She went to law school at night, and by the time she graduated, she had 3 little boys, all under the age of 5 years old. And here she is presenting a great argument, doing an amazing job against formerly the most powerful man in the world, and she's trying to preserve our democracy, trying to hold somebody accountable for attacking our democracy. That's the greatness of America, that somebody can rise up and do that and represent you and me in such an amazing way, Brett.
I was worried there at the beginning of what you were saying, that you were going to say that she grew up living in Fred Trump project buildings in New York. And then I thought again, well, wait a minute. No, she's black. She didn't live in a Trump building.
No, they wouldn't allow it.
They weren't renting to black people back then.
It wasn't allowed. She lived in the John F. Kennedy housing community on St. Croix during her early childhood, as her family regularly returned to the Virgin Islands during her childhood. I mean, it's a great American story. And Joe Negus's story, the congressman that we talked about from Colorado yesterday, that is a great American story. In all of the ugliness of these mostly white people that we saw trying to take down democracy, attack people, and rip people from limb to limb, we are seeing the diversity of America on display right now as true patriots. That's what these guys are. Stacey Plaskett, Ted Lieu, Jamie Raskin, all of these folks, Joe Neguse, these are the true patriots that want to see people held accountable for trying to destroy our democracy and our republic. And I think that's great.
You certainly realize it as you're saying it, that very diversity in who's up there speaking, that stokes the anger, because a lot of folks in this country don't want that to happen. They don't want the power structure to look the way it looks in the Democratic Party. They don't like that at all. And they, on behalf of Donald Trump, who promised them a great America again, making it great again, which was always code for white people get everything and we'll throw you some crumbs.
Make it white again.
Right.
That's what they wanted.
Right.
That's the division. That's the division in America right now. Those people who look at those folks right now who did such a great job of prosecuting the case and they go, that's not America. And then you and I and other folks who look at what happened on January the 6th and they see that violence and that insurrection and those people who wanted to murder anybody they can get their hands on, and they go, that's not America. That's the division in America right now that we see among Americans.
Well, but what if they both are? I mean, I just read a piece that just went up this afternoon. I think it's an op-ed in New York Times written by a woman who has studied terrorist groups and what happens when you drive them underground. Right. And she makes the case that it probably is not likely you're going to see another a visceral assault on the Capitol this way, and maybe not even in the state capitals. And these people are going to keep their powder dry and go below ground for a while, but they're going to keep plotting. They're going to keep scheming, and they're going to keep coming back. I mean, nobody likes to get arrested. No one likes to go to jail. And they just saw what happens when you do what they did. So they might use some other classic underground terrorist techniques that have been used around the world. And they don't always involve storming the Capitol building in any particular country. It doesn't have to be that way. And of course, the first thing you think of is assassinations. Yeah. You know, we have not had political assassinations in this country for many, many decades. And I would hate to think that this is going to start up again because
well, we've had attempts. I mean, Gabby Giffords was certainly an attempted assassination.
Right. Yeah. There's no doubt about it. I'm not saying it ever all went completely away. Right. But I hate to play the 1968 card again, but that was the pinnacle of political assassination, which was only 5 years after John F. Kennedy was assassinated.
That's correct.
When you think about that, we don't want that again.
No, but there could have been a massive, as we're seeing now, as this video make it clear, we could have seen a massive assassinations. There could have been several people that were murdered on January the 6th, including the number 1, 2, and 3 people in terms of line of succession of the president.
Right. I think, and again, to the hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil delegation on the Republican side of the Lindsey Grahams and the Josh Hawleys and the Ted Cruzes, who want to be able to go on Sean Hannity and say, I didn't even see any of that stuff. Let's talk about Joe Biden breaking the budget by giving away too much money.
This woman who Joe Biden wants in terms of OMB, who she has some mean tweets out there. Apparently that's what they're focusing it on Fox today.
Right. But in terms of what those people are trying to accomplish by still thinking that they're going to survive this, because they wouldn't. Remember, when these people came into the Capitol, they didn't know who half of the people were that they were going after on site. They didn't even know what they looked like.
No, right? They knew what Nancy Pelosi looked like. They knew what Mike Pence looked like. But yes, about everybody else, anybody in a suit who sort of looked like they were over 35 would have been fair game.
For the last 4 weeks, all we've heard, and rightfully so, is in one sense, we got lucky. It could have been worse. And if it wasn't for the courage of the Capitol Police who did hang in there, and if it wasn't courage for, was it Sergeant Goodman, the guy who tricked these idiots into walking right by the Senate doors. If it wasn't for that, we would have had massive numbers of assassinations and killings and hangings and the rest. And it was one thing for us to keep saying that over and over again. It is another thing. And I think this is why the Democratic House impeachment group is doing so well. They are ratcheting it up now on day 2, and it looks even worse than just saying, well, it could have been worse. No. When you see, you almost can feel the blood dripping down these people's faces in what they're saying, in what they wanted to do. I mean, this wasn't just storming the Bastille and releasing a few prisoners from a French prison. That was a big deal. But I mean, this is trying to take down the whole building. That's what they wanted to do. And when you see the video, I don't know if you've seen it yet, they've got the security video of Mitt Romney being led away. He almost walked into the the wrong room. He almost went through the wrong door, and they caught him in time and grabbed him. He went the other way. And you see Pence with his family moved out of the way. I mean, this isn't just, it could have been worse. It really was bad.
Oh, no, they would have murdered Mike Pence in front of his wife. They would have easily, there's no question they would have murdered Mike Pence in front of his wife. And I don't understand why we're not hearing Mike Pence say that, because it's fairly clear. I mean, I get that he's still on some level trying to be, I don't know, loyal to his boy or to the party.
Wait. I think it's worse than that, because I don't know if you've read, I've read a few. Mike Pence is trying to gear up to make a political. He thinks he's still viable as a.
Sure.
Mike Pence. Are you kidding? Are you kidding?
I'm not sure.
Speaking of Trump's quote unquote magic not being transferable to even people with the same last name, Trump, Pence. Are you kidding? When Donald Trump needed him the most, he wasn't there. You know that he singularly could have reversed the Electoral College on that day. No, he couldn't have, and he wasn't going to, and it was never going to happen. But I can assure you that the mythology is that Mike Pence pussed out.
Of course.
He chickened out.
Yeah, that's it. That he's well.
Bottom line is there is no Republican Party. And there is no, speaking of, we've got to again be the party of Lincoln. No, you were never the party of Lincoln.
No.
Even when Lincoln was alive, you were barely the party of Lincoln.
No.
And then he got shot. Yeah. He got killed. And there was no party of Lincoln after that, because
and again,
that's it.
The guy that killed Lincoln was a Confederate sympathizer, and you're trying to keep the statues up of the heroes of Confederate sympathizers. In fact, you've turned into Confederate sympathizers.
I don't think that that's overstating it at all.
No, I think that's exactly what's going on.
Because I think it is simple to boil it down to you're either for the United States government and its continuation after 230 years of democracy and fighting off a splinter group that called itself the Confederate States of America, that by the skin of our teeth, it didn't happen that way. But all these years later, I don't see much of a difference. These people tried to overthrow this government and set up something different. I don't know what was going through their minds. I don't even want to know. It's not important.
There was no
I don't
next
have to understand what they're trying to do. But
there was no next step. It was just, let's kill these people. We'll figure it out after the blood runs. I mean, that was their point, right?
And remember, everything we've said, it was all in service to Donald J. Trump. And Donald Trump let the dogs out. Donald Trump lit the fire. Come up with your cliche. He is the one. My final question of the day is, if Donald Trump had not been in Washington that day, if he had not held that rally at noon that day, fully coincidental to Mike Pence starting to run through the votes of the states in the Electoral College, they timed it on purpose to be going at the same time, split the screen. If Donald Trump had not been there that day, does anyone believe there would have been an attack on the United States Capitol? And the answer is no. There's no discussion of that. That's just the way it is. So if Trump is the reason for the riot, then Donald Trump is responsible for the riot and and I use the word loosely, inspiration of people. And there's just way too much video of people saying that. And I don't know what this crack lawyer team defending Trump is going to do besides, and I don't even want to try to predict, but I'll just for fun, if they dare think that the only way to match what we're seeing on our screens the last few days, the attack on the Capitol, the only way to match it is to show violence in Minneapolis, Portland, Seattle over the summer, that there is some kind of equivalency, that there is some kind of well, you didn't say anything about this, so therefore, I think it's possible that they might do that. It would be crazy, it would be ineffective. But as you know, every lie that they tell becomes a talking point to go on Sean Hannity.
That's right.
And then for them to agree that, yeah, what about that? You know, what about is, by the way, I just put up a cartoon. This is a one-panel cartoon, and it's a husband and a wife, and it's a Republican, you know, symbolized by, of course, the stupid elephant. And the Republican is at the Senate trial of Donald Trump, says that, and the Republican says, yeah, but what about Hillary's emails? And the husband says to the wife, I knew they'd finally get around to that. So that makes about as much sense as showing video of violence in Seattle this summer.
That's a good note to end on right there.
It might go that way. It might go that way. And by the way, personal note here, I'm going to be having some of John Amberg's special Super Bowl chili.
Oh.
He prepared a special batch for me today. We didn't watch the Super Bowl together, but at least I can have the chili.
It's always something I look forward to. Back at you tomorrow at 1:30.
Neighborhood. All right.